Today on campus, we're at the University of Wisconsin during the 1980s, where there's no trouble finding opposing viewpoints. Students turn on their massive 19-inch TVs, and on one channel, the conservative televangelism of Jerry Falwell and Jim Bakker's Moral Majority are blaring. A few clicks over on MTV, music videos from artists like Madonna are trampling over provocative boundaries, drawing record ratings and changing the culture. Flip the channel again, and fragrance commercials featuring the Charlie Girl are pushing women to be fiercely independent. Oprah herself stating it defined the woman she dreamt of becoming. It was difficult in the 80s to know what was right and what was wrong. Just when you thought you had it all figured out, the conception of something new would burst out of nowhere and force you to rethink everything. This was certainly so for a young Midwestern woman in particular. You'll want to hear her story. This is Once in College. I'm Pete Griffith. Before Marie Newman was a former U.S. congresswoman, author, and advocate, she was a 19-year-old student at the University of Wisconsin. A surprise pregnancy is not something any young woman just out of high school is ready for, and Marie, at that age, was not the exception. If you think today's episode is about navigating the crossroads of what to do next, it is, in part, but it's also about one woman's courageous journey, starting in shame and ending in self-esteem. Today you will hear a chapter from Marie Newman's book, A Life Made from Scratch. It is her true story, written and narrated by her, of the monumental decision she was compelled to make once in college.
Life comes at you pretty fast, and certain events have more impact than others. My personal abortion story shaped my worldview at a very young age. It was likely my very first high-octane life fire. A surprise pregnancy at 19 is not something any young woman just out of high school is ready for. But I came from a very devout, Catholic, middle-class, Midwestern family that typically reacted with shame in these types of situations. It wasn't that my family shamed me. I just felt it would be discerned that way. It was my perception. 2 weeks before my decision to abort, I reflected deeply on my family and childhood memories, which helped me understand with clarity what was best. Revisiting pivotal moments helped make my decision clear. I thought about everything. My father's job loss at an early age and how it affected me, remembering and admitting to nobody except myself that I did not like babysitting at all. And candidly, although in an Irish Catholic community you are verboten to say this, I did not really enjoy kids. Those admissions were simply not shared in my ruby red conservative suburb growing up. During that time, I contemplated my mother's 80s sitcom-like concept of being a homemaker, bridge, golf, gourmet club, cooking every meal, and developed a distinct curiosity of my mother's complete lack of interest in a career. It was a skewed perception because I did not understand her and truthfully never asked her about it. It was not a lack of ambition. She simply liked homemaking. Having a baby was in direct conflict with my huge plans to be an executive responsible for ending homelessness and my FOMO, fear of missing out. These were all the factors in my decision to have an abortion. But it also revealed the tensions within my family that were precursors and signs of struggles to come. I was taught to believe that abortion was a shameful act. It was murder. I did not agree, but still felt ashamed. This was a situation where I found the fire, and the fire found me. I had sex and did not expect it to change my life, but it did. The tussle with myself was painful, The possibility of losing the hard-won achievements at college was a factor, but also, if I'm being 100% honest, another factor was a clear and compelling desire to party, have adventures, and have a good time. Yep, I said it. Brutal honesty with myself made it convincingly clear. I still wanted to have fun, have a career, and not just be a mom. Finally, my decision to pursue my life the way I wanted became clear as day. An abortion is not a shameful act. Yet, I kept it an ironclad secret. It would take another 20 years for me to tell my closest friends and sisters. That decision was transformative and a clear sign of other tough decisions ahead. I learned that I am capable of very tough decisions and that my opinion matters. I am also capable of walking through fire and building my own solutions. On the morning of my abortion, I vividly recall the room was freezing. Alone and mortified, with heavy notes of terror and guilt, I sat wearing one of those awkward patient gowns that ties in the back. In a sterile room, I shivered while looking at the aluminum tables with shiny equipment. It all felt really industrial, not really medical. I felt tears running down my face, but my mind was racing so fast, I did not know I was crying. As I laid on the clinic bed, I kept replaying my decision, every angle, every discussion, and kept coming back to the same place. This is so hard, but inescapably the right thing to do. In the year prior, I had been happily dating a very nice young man in college who was kind, loving, smart, and adorable. I was joyful and having late night drinking, being silly, working hard, college fun, the fun I should be having. It was the beginning of my sophomore year, and my dorm was filled with funny, smart folks from all over, and I loved getting to know all of them. My kind and sweet boyfriend had just transferred to another university, and I felt like I had the world by the tail. Even though he was only an hour away, I enjoyed that little separation of time and space from him, and I had great friends, loved my studies, and was still close to my friends at home. That all came to a screeching halt when I realized I was late. My period was like a clock on a computer. Every 29 days, boom, 5 days long, no variation, until that day in October. The first few days of being late, I really did not give it a thought. After a week, I became nervous. At 12 days, I told a close friend. On day 14, I knocked on Barb's door 3 doors down and started crying. We sat on her bed and devised a plan. The plan was perfected during a walk to the drugstore. Let's go to the drugstore on Water Street. It's farther away but safer, Barb said. I will stand in front of you as you pick out the pregnancy test from the shelf and shield you at the counter so nobody will see what you're buying. I felt immense appreciation, hugging her tightly as I walked out the door at the store. Later, when we got back to the dorm, we went to the least crowded bathroom, and she stood by the door telling people I was sick and go to another floor. God damn it, I shrieked, looking at the test in disbelief. I dissolved into tears. Barb came running in. Let me guess, it's positive. She fell to the floor with me. Barb understood unexpected health challenges intimately. When she was younger, she had a childhood disease that was life-changing, and she was beyond empathetic, an absolute saint. We stared at it for a while, and then Barb grabbed some tissues and offered, "Let's go get some bad coffee in the cafeteria, and let's figure this thing out." By the time we sat in the dimly lit corner of the cafeteria at an old 1960s-style nondescript tile-surfaced lunch table, my head was exploding with contradictory thoughts. Being very Catholic at the time, I was disgusted and disappointed with myself. My parents will hate me and never forgive me. What will Adam, my incredibly kind boyfriend, say? And what will my friends say? Then it struck me. I'm obsessing over what everyone else thinks. As if reading my mind, Barb said, "It does not matter what anyone else thinks. It is only important what you and Adam think. Block out all that other crap." My problem was that I did not know what to think. I honestly had never thought about having babies before. Do I want kids? Do I not want kids? Do I want a career and kids? Do I just want a career? Jesus, I had no idea. I'm going to call Adam as soon as I can stop crying. 2 hours later, I called him in my room while my roommate was out. "Oh, Hans," he said in his super adorable Wisconsin way. "That is tough news." "What are you thinking?" "Whatever you want," he encouraged. I finally blurted out, "I don't think I'm ready for a baby. I have no idea how to be a mom. I'm so damn scared I cannot see straight." He was loving and said, "Do you want me to hop on a bus and come tonight? I can blow off class tomorrow and stay until Tuesday morning." He took it in the way I thought he would. Adam was kind, supportive, and lovely. But I knew he was feeling the same way. He was scared, not interested in being a parent, but did not say either way. The fact that he did not say, "Please keep the pregnancy and make a go of it," said it all. I was glad, and it was all I needed to know. Ultimately, over the following 2 weeks, we decided to have the abortion. I cried and cried, hoping it was somehow not true. Test after test said otherwise. I was pregnant and having an abortion. Adam made the arrangements at a clinic on campus. He went with me and held my hand. The middle-aged nurse with blonde curls and wise eyes touched me on the shoulder and said, "It's time, honey." The doctor was in his early 50s. He had knowing eyes. Respectfully and in a clear voice, he said, "You understand what we're doing here, Marie, yes?" "I do," I managed. "Well, we'll get started then. You will feel a pinch and some pressure throughout." And that was when I literally checked out of my body, and honestly, I do not recall much at all until I was in the recovery room. That room was warmer, softer, with a blanket. Adam came in, touched my forehead, and said, "You did great, Hans." All I remember after that was sitting in the dorm room, making soup in the hot pot and watching TV. In the blurry weeks that followed, I worked hard to forget it. That did not work. I thought about it incessantly. The enormity of it would catch me by surprise in the oddest places, in the line at the library, talking to a friend from class. I would drift off and start crying. I told no one for years, except one priest the following spring of my junior year. The thought of going to confession at a large contemporary church on campus was something that hounded me for months. Every time I passed the building, I felt a palpable tug to go inside. At that time, I was still pretty faithful to Catholicism, went to church every week, and was perpetually feeling guilty about the abortion. On a bright, sunny Saturday morning, I walked up the steps, stood in the cavernous but tranquil reception area of the sleek and modern church. A kind woman in a cardigan approached me and simply said, "Hello." I could tell she saw my wet eyes. "What is it, dear?" Sheepishly, I asked, "Is Father offering confessions at this time?" "Let me see," she offered in a comforting and knowing way. I settled into a pew in the front of the church where the confession signs were placed. This was much better than when I was a little girl. Dear Lord, those awful Gothic confessional boxes were dark wood, musty, and looked like where you would go to get tortured or worse. This Catholic church was modern, with comfy pews and no confessionals. The priest emerged from the altar door and saw me. He was youngish, maybe 35, with glasses and a slight smile. "Hi, I'm Father Pete." "Hi, I'm Marie," I said through tears. It still makes me cry when I think about this exchange, but not for the reasons you think. "I can tell you're carrying a heavy load." "Can I help you with that?" Father Pete chirped. The waterfall of tears began, filled with gasps, ugly crying, and hands on my mouth as if to silence myself. He put his finger up to signal, "Just 1 minute," picked up some tissues from the altar and offered them to me. After I finished, he took a deep breath and nodded. "It sounds like you're looking for absolution." I looked up slightly, but not all the way up, sort of like a child who realized they may not be in big trouble, but they will get a brief lecture. Turns out, it was not even a lecture, more like just life advice. God loves you and wants you to have a full life. Return his love by making sure you take care of yourself and others and think about your future. He imparted like a burning bush. He put his hand on my forehead and gave me formal absolution. I remember hugging him, and he was slightly uncomfortable. I promised I would take his sage words to heart. Walking out, I felt lighter. My boyfriend and I had amicably broken up months before. Leaving the church, I felt the need to reach out to him, but instead, I ran back to my apartment to seek the safety of my roommates. While I did not tell anyone at that time, I was buoyed by simply being around my roommates. They sensed something, but we just had a good time and watched movies. No judgment, no prying, just smiles, easy quiet, and simply being present. I was grateful. From that point on, I learned a great lesson. My future is both in the years to come and right now. You build your future from scratch every day. So remember that you need to blend in your life now and in the future. This episode in my life allowed me to recognize that I will always be making hard decisions. And I need to think about reality, the things I can change, the things I cannot change, such as history, and how I built it from there. What I really learned about myself was that I wanted a career. I wanted to have impact. And I could do so if I put my nose to the grindstone. From there, I concentrated on building a career, and I did. Listening to yourself and trusting yourself, particularly when you are young, is very hard. Often, we think we know everything, but simultaneously, we know we do not. We all make choices, good and bad. I have made a lot of bad choices, but I definitely learned from each and every one of them. I was always aware when I was making a bad choice. Skipping class, calling in sick when I wasn't, staying with bad boys, spending too much money, drinking too much. Those were clearly not good choices. I had no frame of reference on big choices. I really had to rely on playing out scenarios of the future in my head. I learned that skill when I went to college, and still, today, I run the scenarios through before making a decision.
Today's true story was not only written and read by Marie Newman, she helped produce it as well. As we mentioned up front, Marie has a long list of talents. She served as the U.S. Representative for Illinois' 3rd Congressional District and has blazed other notable trails throughout her career as a marketing consultant, podcaster, and entrepreneur. Besides her prescriptive memoir, A Life Made from Scratch, from which this was read, Marie has also published When Your Child is Being Bullied, Real Solutions. We'd like to give a special shout out to Rob Wallace, who also helped produce this. If what you heard today reminds you of a heavy decision you had to face in college, we'd love to talk with you about it. Leave us a comment or two or visit us at onceincollege.com and connect with us there. We're looking for unique or unusual college experiences, including the ones that didn't necessarily happen in any of your classes. Which reminds us, we want to thank Marie Newman again for sharing the thinking behind her decision to pursue her life the way she wanted to, and her perspective that an abortion, while traumatic, is not a shameful act. If you liked what we do here, give us a like, or share it with someone who you went through some tough times together. And if you want to hear our upcoming stories the moment they come out, please subscribe to our podcast. It really helps us more than you'd ever think, more than our GPAs ever did. Until then, I'm Pete Griffith, back next week with more stories like this, all from a time once in college.